Happy holidays, everybody. We're getting into the cold weather season now, and I wanted to talk about today the best cold water bass lure of all time. What would you say it is? Before I reveal what I believe it to be, what do you think the best cold water bass lure of all times is? A lot of people would say, oh, a silver buddy, or jig, or jerk bait, or tight wiggle crankbait, or rattle trap, or a lot of these different things. And of course, all of those lures will definitely catch fish on a regular basis. But there's one lure for cold water that will always catch fish. It always catches them. It doesn't have to be windy. It doesn't have to be cloudy. It doesn't have to be a warming trend. It doesn't have to be a rocky bottom area. It doesn't have to be anything in particular. This particular lure that I'm about to reveal catches fish all the time. If you're not catching fish on this, you're not catching fish on anything probably. So what is the lure? The shaky head. And now everybody's like, oh no, not the shaky head, not the shaky head. I don't like the shaky head. It doesn't catch big fish, or, I want to fish something that's more of a power bait technique. Well, you can do all that stuff. And you can, like I said, you can catch fish doing that. But the shaky head is not a little fish lure. The shaky head is a catch anything that you put in front of its face lure. Like I said in a previous video last year, the two biggest bags of fish that I have ever caught locally came on a shaky head. Why? Because it's an unobtrusive lure that sneaks up on these fish, and then they have to make a decision. Where most other lures, bigger lures, flashier lures, bulkier lures, the bass can feel these coming. They kind of have an idea. Here it's coming. What is it? It's bigger. I can see it. I can feel it. The shaky head kind of sneaks right into their stinking neighborhood before they even realize what's going on. Then they're forced to make a decision. And because it's not easily distinguishable a lot of times in the water, because it's small, slinky, a bass being a curious creature, for them to figure out what something is, they put it in their mouth, like a little baby, right? A little baby puts everything in his mouth to figure out what it is. Bass, same way, puts it in his mouth, and he's going to determine real quick whether or not it's something he wants to eat or not, based on the texture, the flavor, the size, everything. So the thing about a shaky head is, that's not just the only shaky head that you can throw. So what do you do when you're not getting bit on anything else? You pick up the shaky head, you start throwing the shaky head, and you're catching, smallish fish, but there's bigger fish around. It's not just a place where there's a bunch of small fish, but there's big fish around, but you can't get them to react to a jerk bait. You can't get them to react to a jig. You can't get them to react to anything that you're winding, a swim bait or a crankbait or a rattle trap or any of that type of thing. Then there's adjustments that you can make. And the first adjustment that I would make with a shaky head, if I'm not catching the right quality fish, is I'm going wider or longer on my bait presentation. So first thing you want to try is go from this to this, right? Finesse worm, Magnum finesse worm, same length. This is just bulkier. That bulkier bait will catch an average bigger fish. But a lot of times, the Magnum finesse worm will catch the same fish that the regular shaky head's catching, except it will also appeal to a bigger fish. And then you can go from, if that's still not doing the trick for you, then you can go from that to a trick worm, see? Now we're going longer. We're getting longer. And you can even upgrade that trick worm to a Magnum trick worm, which is a thicker body worm. So now when you do that, when you go from a regular shaky head to a Magnum shaky head, you can try it with the smaller 1/8 ounce head, but a lot of times I'm going to beef up to like a 1/2 ounce head or 3/8 at least with the Magnum. And a part of the reason you have to do that is these smaller heads, that's a 4/0 hook, right? That's a 4/0 hook, but that's a very narrow shank or a narrow throated 4/0 hook. And I've been working with a guy trying to get him to make me a shaky head, like an 1/8 ounce or 3/16 ounce shaky head with a screw lock that has like a 4/0 or 5/0 EWG hook on it, so that you can still have that small weight, but you get a good hook for the bulkiness of the bait. See, now with this bigger jig head here, this is also a 4/0, but it has a deeper throat to it, so it'll work for that. So just don't get caught in that trap of throwing a bigger, bulkier bait, but staying with the smaller hook, because that'll cost you some fish. But there's, when you say shaky head, there's a whole lot of things that you can do that are different than just picking up a green pumpkin or a black and blue or a watermelon red, a shaky head, and throwing it out there to catch fish. You can mix it up if you're around a lot of shad or a lot of light colored bait fish that are around. Then you can throw a white one. This one has an eye on it. This particular head here is what you would use for little minnow baits when you're like dropping them, suspend them under the boat. But you can also just use it as a shaky head with a longer white worm to imitate the shad. And then of course, shaky heads that we call Ned rigs today is really nothing but a shaky head. It's just a cut down version of a shaky head. And we used to do that years ago before, anybody even talked about, like, use the word Ned rig. Is we would take our regular shaky heads, and if we weren't getting bit with these regular size shaky heads, it's a 4-inch, I'd bite an inch off of them and go to 3 inches. And then you'd start catching fish where you weren't catching fish before. So now they just happen to make a bait that's 3 inches, which we call a Ned rig, which is a little bulkier than a shaky head that you can throw. And then lastly, once you've, bulked up, lengthened up, changed colors, bit it down if you needed to, you can not get stuck. Don't get stuck on just thinking, worms only. Small baby flukes, swimming flukes, small minnow imitation lures, and even pretty much any type of little crawl bait or any type of creature bait works well on a shaky head too. And then don't get stuck on just a rounded head or the football head. You got the stand-up heads, like this stand-up head here. It's got a big flat spot on it, and it sits in the water like that, and then the little legs are just kind of flipping around in the water. And so that gives, these fish a different look when everybody's fishing a standard shape or standard size shaky head around, and you drop a little 3-inch rage crawl on them or a little creature bait on them, then those fish are just not used to seeing that in that presentation. So that is, in my opinion, the absolute best cold water bass fishing bait of all times, because it catches fish under every single condition. So again, if you like my content and you want to watch it on a regular basis, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, the little bell thing, the alert thing, so you get alerts when new videos are coming out. Again, I thank you for watching, and have a blessed day and a happy holiday season.